What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about how to calculate your cost of labor. You see, too many people will underestimate what their actual payroll costs are because they hadn't taken into consideration things like taxes, admin fees, workers' comp, benefits, PTO, and all that other stuff. So we're going to break it down for you. But first, like, comment, subscribe, show Dre and I a little love. I don't know if you can tell or not, but we got the cow theme going on here. This is our farmer week, cowboy week. I don't know what's going on. Apparently there's gonna be zoo animals here next week. So let's get right into it. My name is Chris Chan, the founder and CEO of Active Age Daytime Senior Care. And if you haven't already, make sure you sign up for our free monthly webinars. You can go to adcpro.com. Make sure you join our private Facebook group. And if you wanna open your very own Active Age Adult Day Center, go to activeagecare.com/franchise. All right, guys, so in this particular framework here, what I try to do is I try to help you guys understand that when you are calculating your payroll costs, a lot of times people will make calculations or they'll create financial projections, but they may not include the accurate payroll costs. So when you're thinking about paying people on your team, $15 an hour, or you're thinking about paying an admin, 18 or 20, or, depending on where you're at in the country. I mean, some places maybe you're paying 12, 13, 14 bucks an hour. Wherever you are and whatever makes sense for your area, it's important for you to understand not only how much do you plan to pay your team, but what is that actually going to cost you? Because if you pay someone 15 bucks an hour, it's not gonna cost you 15 bucks an hour. That might be what you've agreed to pay them, but there's gonna be other fees, other things associated with that expense that you maybe hadn't taken into consideration, and it's important for you to build these into your pro forma. So that being said, so you got your gross wages, and this is what you're committing to pay someone, right? So in this case, we've done the $15 an hour example, right? On top of that, you're gonna have state taxes, unemployment taxes, you're gonna have your Medicare, your Social Security, and every state's gonna be a little bit different. And so I always think it's very important for you to take into consideration that, build in a safety net of somewhere between 10 to 15% to encompass all of your state taxes. Okay, again, this could be on the lower end. Your total all-in taxes may only be 8 or 9% or 10%, but you might be in another state where not only do you have your federal income taxes, but you also have state taxes, right? So it's important for you to build that buffer in. That buffer could be anywhere between 10 to 15%. All right, so that would be, if you're paying someone $15 an hour, you're gonna spend about $2.25 in taxes on top of that $15 an hour. Now, anytime you have 4 employees or more on your payroll, you're gonna have to have workers' compensation. And you can potentially go out and purchase a workers' comp policy on your own, but it might be a little bit more expensive. So sometimes, depending on if you're with a payroll company or an employee leasing company, you can purchase your workers' compensation through that company, and there's a chance that maybe instead of you having your own individual policy that you go out and you pay directly for every year, you could essentially pay a percentage of your payroll costs towards that workers' comp policy that might be part of a larger employee leasing type company, right? So that would be a PEO. There's another video I made that talks about the difference between a payroll service provider, a PSP, and a PEO, which is a professional employee organization. So that being said, workers' comp, probably gonna run you anywhere between, on the low end, 1%, on the high end, 3%. It's gonna depend on your area. It's gonna depend on the workers' comp rates with that insurance company that you're going with, or with the payroll company you utilize, right? But it's probably gonna run anywhere between 1 to 3% of your payroll. And then you're gonna have administrative costs. This administrative cost could come as a percentage of payroll, or it could come as a dollar amount or a flat fee per payroll period. Maybe it's 100, 150, 200 bucks per payroll period, or it could be 1 to 2% of payroll. Either way, it's probably gonna fall in alignment somewhere around that range, right? So 1 to 2%. And then a lot of times, if you are planning to offer benefits, maybe it's some ancillary benefits, maybe it's health insurance, maybe it's, you're gonna pay a portion of health insurance to certain key individuals on your team. There's gonna be a certain cost to that, as well as things like paid time off. You might have paid time off or holiday pay. And again, that amount of money is gonna need to be, like taken into account. And you're gonna have to have a certain percentage of that payroll that's maybe going to stash away PTO hours for someone, right? So what is that gonna look like? How much are you gonna spend in those benefits or in that PTO, right? Or the combination of those two. I would always factor that it's probably gonna be somewhere between 5 to 10%. Now, if you're offering major medical to not only your staff, but also to family members, you're probably gonna spend even more than 10%. There's a good chance you might spend 15% or more if you're gonna offer major medical, not only your team, but their families as well. So you have to take this into consideration, because you probably have to pay at least 50% of whatever that healthcare cost is, or it might be 75%, or it might be 100% of what their health insurance is. It just depends, again, on what you decide to do. Some companies might offer this. Some companies, especially in the very beginning, may not offer this at all. This might be something that you take into consideration later, but you should be aware of it, because if you don't build this into your price structure, what's gonna happen is you're gonna undercharge for your services, and then you'll never have built in the cushion to later on down the road offer benefits and PTO. So that being said, all in, you're probably gonna spend somewhere between 17 to 30% on top of whatever your gross wages are. So in this case here, if you look at the way we broke this down, we have the percentages over here, and then we have the actual, like the way that's gonna affect the dollar amount per hour, right? So someone that you commit to paying $15 an hour, by the time you pay taxes, workers' comp, and then your administrative fees, you're probably gonna spend somewhere around $18 per hour on that employee. Yes, you committed to 15, but you are not actually paying $15 an hour. You're actually paying out of the company's paying $18 an hour on their behalf for a $15 per hour employee, okay? So it's $3 more than maybe you put into your projections, and it's important for you to take that into consideration. Now, if you're offering benefits and PTO, there's a good chance that you're gonna spend close to $20 an hour, probably something in the neighborhood of $19.50, the way we broke it down in this chart. So that's assuming that you're taking into account taxes, workers' comp, admin, benefits, and PTO. Now you're spending somewhere close to 30% on top of your payrolls. I broke this down in an hourly format so you could understand that, yes, I'm gonna pay my caregivers 15. Yes, I'm gonna pay my other member of the team, maybe whatever level that's at, they're gonna make 18. This other level is gonna make 20. My admin might make 22 or 25. Maybe they're on salary, maybe they're hourly. All of these things you're gonna have to take into consideration, but you want to understand that if you pay someone 15, you're probably gonna spend close to 19, 20, or 19.50 or 18 bucks an hour. If you pay someone 20, you're probably gonna spend somewhere close to 27, 28 bucks an hour, right? So these are all things that you gotta take into consideration that maybe you hadn't considered before. And yes, when you talk about dollars per hour, it's like, oh, it's just $3 more per hour. But when you think about your monthly payroll might run $10, $20, $30, $40,000 per month. So say your payroll, for instance, was $10,000 a month. If you didn't take this into consideration, if you hadn't calculated or built in the cushion needed to cover all your payroll costs, what you thought was gonna be $10,000 per month on your projections might actually cost you $13,000 per month. So it's $3,000 more than what you had expected by the time you take into consideration all these other expenses that are associated with payroll, right? So that could be a lot. I mean, so for instance, say your payroll's $30,000 a month, really what it costs you is $39,000 a month by the time you pay all these fees, taxes, administrative fees, benefits, PTO, all that good stuff, right? So that's a big difference. That's almost a $9,000 more per month than you had originally budgeted for, right? So if you don't take these things into consideration when you go to build your financial projections over the first 12 and 24 months, you're not gonna actually be able to calculate your cost of labor or your payroll costs accurately unless you include these other fees. So I always, myself personally, will always use 20% as my golden rule of thumb. But as we think about us growing and getting bigger and being able to offer benefits and PTO, we have to start making budgets and planning for the future. We need to start increasing our payroll budget where we're actually budgeting 30% higher than what our gross wages are, right? And so by us doing that, by us budgeting 30% higher than what our gross wages are, then we know how to appropriately price our cost to the consumer, right? Because we need to have enough margin. Like our labor costs should not go over 40% in the adult day industry, right? So, if you're billing out $100,000 per month, for your adult day center, you shouldn't be spending more than $40,000 a month in payroll, right? So we need to take those things into consideration so that when we are creating the cost structure, when we are coming up with our pricing structure, that we have built in enough cushion that what we're charging the consumer and what we're paying our employees, there's enough of a spread in there for you to earn a profit as a company and to have paid all of your bills, right? So these are things that most people do not take into consideration. They'll take out a spreadsheet, they'll take out that Excel, they'll be like, all right, I need 5 people here at 40 hours a week. I need 2 people here at 20 hours a week. I need 3 part-timers at 10 hours a week. Whatever the case might be, they add all that stuff up. They times by the rate they're planning on paying them, but they didn't take into consideration taxes, workers' comp, administrative fees, benefits, and PTO. So make sure you build this into your performa. And if you'd like to learn more about how to open your very own adult day center, go to adcpro.com. Join us for our monthly webinar. Make sure you join our private Facebook group. And if you haven't already and you'd like to own your very own Active Age, go to activeagecare.com/franchise. We'll see you on the next one. Peace. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn how to open your own adult daycare center, go to adcpro.com. If you'd like the latest business tips, click here, and make sure you subscribe to our channel, click here. We'll see you guys next time.